am super nervous today. I don't know why. Nicole's back. Anyway, maybe I need this, but let's take in a collective deep breath. And then releasing. Yeah, I think I needed that. So the inspiration for today's sermon comes from several different places. But first, I practiced the contemplative prayer practice that I learned in Megan Watterson's book, Mary Magdalene Revealed, that many of us read. And that kind of contemplative prayer she calls soul voice meditation. And I opened up my heart and I asked, what would you have me preach on September 1st? And honestly, I'd been asking this for weeks, and I kept listening and I kept getting silence, and so I kept getting more quiet. I wrote in my journal. I met with my spiritual director. I spent time with the horses. I listened to sermons these last few weeks, and really, I opened my heart to know what it was. And one morning, about 2 weeks ago, I asked again, what would you have me preach on September 1st? And then like 40 minutes later, I had a client come, this beautiful, wonderful woman I've been working with, to do a horse coaching session. And that day, the horses spoke to her and me. And many of you have met my little miniature horse, Clyde. And Clyde chose to work with this woman that day. And she chose to work with him, because sometimes people surprise me. But this day, they both chose to work with each other. And I wasn't really kind of getting the vibe from the woman, what she wanted to do. I wasn't getting the vibe from the horses, what they wanted to do today. And so I said, how about we put Clyde's halter on and you start walking around the paddock? And then maybe it will come to you what you'd like to talk about. And so she's like, fine. And so I put the halter on. She starts walking Clyde around the paddock. It was a beautiful thing. They were in sync, so connected. And before I know it, my blind horse, Anu, starts following too. Like she's the Pied Piper. And in the horse world, Beth will tell you, we call that join up. When a horse is so connected to you and you with the horse that they will follow you anywhere you want to go. Sally's nodding. I forget you're a horse person too. And so these three beings, woman, two horses, just walking around the paddock, it was a beautiful thing. And in order for that to happen, the human has to be fully present, not like mind going everywhere. And before I knew it, Clyde led the woman over to the gate and just stopped. And so you got to picture it, miniature horse, woman a little taller than me, and this blind horse didn't even touch her, came and stood right next to her. All of them looking at the gate, not moving a foot. The woman looking at me, then at the horses, and then at this beautiful gate and the view beyond. And right then and there, I said, I'm preaching about knock on the door. I knew it clear as day because I heard the voice. Now, the woman had a whole different takeaway. She never did walk through the gate, but that's her learning. And that's okay. I am walking through the gate. Nicole offered us a beautiful invitation 18 months ago as she and others wrote a grant to the Lilly Foundation for her sabbatical time of renewal. In the grant, she asked for $60,000, which is a lot of money, to go on this amazing pilgrimage seeking to learn more at a heart, emotional, and intellectual level about Mary Magdalene and the divine feminine. And she asked us to accompany her and have our own journey. So she led us to the door. We all knocked, and the Lilly Foundation let us in with this beautiful $60,000 gift. And so now we have been asking and seeking, we've been eating and playing and praying, and I'm pretty sure that some of us went through that door with some eagerness. I think some of you went through with some hesitation, going, what are we doing? And I'm going to guess that some never walked through at all. But what I know is because we walked through that door, asking questions and seeking, we opened our hearts, we listened, and we're all changed. Now, you all gifted Nicole and I a journal in May on our send-off Sunday, and I'm not sure anyone gave us instructions on what the invitation was for this journal, but I'll share that I've been writing in mine all summer. I'm suspecting Nicole has been writing on her own as well. And I've been writing what we've done, little nuggets from the sermons, my experience with the soul voice meditation, and my own journey with this broken leg. Funny, Kathy said, I'm very stable. Love that. But I've been writing about the journey with my broken leg and then living through a wildfire and being evacuated. And as I prepared for the sermon today and for Nicole coming back and our coming through some new doors, I read through what I wrote and then I wrote some more. And it occurred to me that we all have knocked on this door of spiritual exploration, wanting to learn more about this journey that we're on, whatever it means, wanting to know more about love, wanting to know more about the divine feminine. And whether we're longtime Christians, recent converts, or somewhere along the journey, knocking is what this congregation does. So this summer, we knocked on the door of the divine feminine and Mary Magdalene, and we accepted Nicole's invitation to eat, pray, and play in new ways. Thus, my Wonder Woman shoes. And I think that many of us have experienced some beautiful moments, and I'm going to do a few highlights. So eating. We fed our neighbors with a food drive for EFA, and I think it was like 17 I don't know. It was a lot of food. We had an amazing omelet bar that day on the patio, and that mischievous and playful divine feminine showed up. Because if you remember, we ran out of gas on the grills, and there were still like 30 or so omelet orders waiting to be cooked. And so while someone went to get gas, I think maybe Mark, we sat and we talked and we laughed and we had a joyous time. And then the gas came and we were able to finish and eat those beautiful omelets. We had ice cream socials with ice cream, delicious toppings, whipped cream, root beer, and those edible spoons that Philip found, and the divine feminine is like, let's make this a little fun, and they kept breaking. How fun is that? But it was a fun idea. We ate with one another at sacred communion tables in worship, in the fellowship hall, on the patio, communing with one another, offering love, support, building new relationships, or rekindling friendships we've had for a long time. We laughed, we cried, we tried new things. We fed Kathy when she came home from the hospital after her stroke. We fed Judy when she recovered from a hip replacement. You fed Jay and I when I broke my leg. And right this weekend, we're feeding Maddie so much she needed 3 meals. She's probably got 7. We're good at eating and feeding. And as I think about and reflect about that eat theme, I notice that we celebrated the love we have for one another and this community. And even perhaps we started noticing the divinity within each other in a new way. I'm struck that we also received spiritual food and nourishment too. My heart is beaming as I reflect about various moments this summer that touched me at a really deep level. One moment during the sound journey on the patio still captures me. If you were here, you might remember this. Our beloved Wyatt wanted to help me, and he knows my horses, they know my horses. And so I allowed Wyatt to step into leadership that evening, and I gave him a little bit of instruction on how to let Clyde lead. And he listened, and as Marilyn played that beautiful music, Clyde led Wyatt around, and he ended up at Karen and Dan's 7-year-old granddaughter, Opal. And what happened between those 3 kids, that horse, and that music? Total heart-centered connection. They didn't move 4 minutes, And if those of you who know Wyatt, 4 minutes, not moving, long time. 7-year-old, not moving, a long time. My horse, not moving for 4 minutes, was a long time. Beautiful, special moment. Pure love. Our speakers and our preachers this summer brought new ideas, spiritual food for us to chew on. More than one of you wrote about how Brooklyn's reflections about the divine feminine and weeping really made you stop and reflect. And Elizabeth's invitation last week to try dancing as an image of God was playful, and one that some of you are ready to embrace and others of you are like, what? And our LGBTQ plus Pride Sunday was joyful and fun, and our booth at Pride Fest continues to be one of the most popular at the Boulder Pride event. And Reese and Ken offered some soul-stirring music today, for example, Dave Matthews, all summer long. And they helped move us in ways with their music, in ways that often words just don't do. And our Divine Feminine retreat was filled with heart-stirring and thoughtful reflections with a new and different experience, inviting us to experience God in a new way, to listen with our hearts as much as our ears. And it was an invitation to love. Soul food. Playing. I'm not ready to let go of it, so there you have the knock-knock jokes. But what shall I say about bubbles and Play-Doh and candy and clay and Bible Jeopardy? That was fun. We found out that Andrew Chappello is very competitive, right? And we laughed, we experienced joy, we had fun, and I wonder how much of that or what of that do we want to take with us? How can we bring play into our everyday just like we did as children? So much more to say about wonder and how that can lead us in our spiritual growth. But that's probably a whole nother sermon. Pray. We experienced, like I said, music as prayer so many times this summer, and I know that the sound journey we had here in worship allowed many to let go of all the thoughts and the to-do lists in our minds, and people let the music take them for a really beautiful journey. And it was a heart and soul stirring experience. I know that there was tears, joy, smiles, peace, and new awareness came for people that day. And then 2 weeks later, when we added my horses, that was a whole beautiful evening. And again, I carry so many of those memories with me. Our own Anne led us through a Lectio Divina experience, this contemplative prayer practice. And she invited us to listen to the heart's wisdom and let it speak to and through us. Be still and know that I am God, over and over and over. And I noticed and heard that people felt like God was speaking to them in a whole new way, some for the very first time. Now, if you like that kind of contemplative prayer practice, you can join us every Tuesday and Thursday morning at 7:30 on Zoom for breathing space, or come at 8 o'clock on Sunday mornings. But I know that our two Nicoles and I are already dreaming about how to offer more contemplative practices in the coming months, reclaiming this ancient prayer practice so that we can go deep and listen to our hearts and be guided by the holy in new ways. And if you were here in August, Janet invited us to practice gratitude as prayer. And she had these beautiful cards, and many of us took a card. Actually, everybody got a card. And we were invited to pray and have gratitude for everyday things in our lives. Music, windows, chairs, books, our bed, or again, the divine feminine being very funny. My card, legs. I still am reflecting about that, giving thanks for legs. We experienced prayer in the retreat using Megan Watterson's book, The Prayer of the Heart, the Kyrie Eleison. Lord Jesus, have mercy on me. And during the retreat, I also invited people to practice soul voice meditation out on the patio. And we had a beautiful time just listening to the creek and the wind and the birds. We walked the labyrinth, all different ways of praying. And Judy shared her own story of her soul voice meditation experience that very morning that opened her up to sharing her story in really a beautiful and unique way that touched so many people. Hopefully, we have a different understanding of the varieties of prayer and communing with God, that it doesn't have to look one particular way, that the rules we thought made up good prayer got thrown out. Prayer is supposed to be leading us to deeper relationship with ourselves, each other, the world, and God, as if any of that is separate, which is also part of the myth that we learned about in our study of the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. The divine feminine. What a fun exploration, noticing that she is everywhere and she has always been. No longer hidden despite years of tradition that tried to keep her away and out of mind and sight. She's out and about, mischievous, playful, encouraging vulnerability, nurturing, truth-telling, spirit-filled, heart-centered, crying, laughing, dancing, moving, filled with love. A part of our tradition and early scriptures, and there is so much more here to explore, and many of you are asking to do that. And Mary Magdalene, the first apostle, the one whom Jesus loved and kissed on the lips, the one who Jesus revealed deep truth to, the one who comforted and taught the other disciples and apostles about Jesus, about opening and listening to their hearts and turning them toward the good. The one who was so different from her teachings and her learnings about Jesus that the tradition and her words that she shared with others were both hidden, they were buried, and torn out. That's how come Carol left us hanging in the middle of a sentence, because those words were so radical for the time. They were torn out. The one who the resurrected Jesus appeared to first, the one who proclaimed Jesus had risen before anybody else, the one history tried to erase by taking away her voice and power, the one so dangerous to the norms of the day and the acceptable Jesus tradition that years after being written, writers created a second Sister Martha in the raising of Lazarus story by changing some letters in the gospel we know as John. I can hardly imagine that any of us will experience Easter the same again after all that we have learned this summer. And so now we're at a new door. Nicole had her experience, and I know we will hear more about it. And we've had our own individual and collective experiences, and not one of us is the same as we were in May. What are we asking for? What are we seeking? And the words in the introduction of Megan Watterson's book just keep coming back to me. How we see anything changes everything. Maybe we're seeing things differently now. I know I am. We're changed. We've learned new things. We will continue to learn new things. And maybe we're letting go of things that no longer work. We can keep learning, keep exploring, keep reconstructing as we continue to build beloved community. And Watterson goes on, the point of Mary's gospel is not to suggest that we need to be somebody else. We can be who we are. And it is more about opening up to the fact that our system of understanding the world may no longer work for us. And it's a series of perpetual moments when you remember that you don't have to feel separate from love. Carol read that twice. I love that. We don't have to be separate from love. And for me, I have chosen to knock on the door of turning toward the good. I'm listening more and more to the wisdom in my heart, which has said multiple times this summer, slow down. And the mischievous divine feminine didn't think I heard it during the divine feminine retreat when the message came to me several times out in the patio. I didn't hear slow down, and so I broke my leg, and I was forced to slow down. I journaled, I sat in quiet, I did a lot of soul voice meditation, and I'm slowing down and slowing down. And I'm remembering and waking up again to the mystery and playfulness of the divine feminine that has always been there and always been around me, dancing among and with us. I'm remembering and waking up to the truth that I am and we are and never have been separate from God, love, the divine, the holy, however you call it. It's within me. It's within you. There is not a God out there. God is within. So close, so intimate. Love is right here, and I choose it. What I have heard from many of you during discussions is that what has been handed down to us through tradition doesn't really serve us anymore in the way it has been given. And the truth is, I have been, and probably many of you have been reimagining and filtering out what doesn't work for a really long time. But this summer, that has been reignited for me, and I suspect most of you. Jesus said in the Gospel of Mary, chapter 4, "For the child of true humanity exists within you. Follow it." God's not out there. God's right here. Follow it. And maybe that's the door we're all knocking on. How do we follow it? God, the divine, Sophia, whatever name you have for whatever is greater than us. Now that we've learned what we've learned, how do we follow it? What's possible for us if we do? How can we reimagine church, or dare I say, reimagine Christianity? How can we expand our learning and exploration? How can we widen our circle? How do we remember that we are not separate from love and never have been? Love is right here. That's a lot of doors to knock on, friends. A lot of seeking and finding and listening, and I think that's the invitation, at least for me. But we're going to take a couple minutes now. I have a couple of reflection questions. Turn to a neighbor, 2 or 3 of you, and reflect about what have you learned or are still seeking this summer about Mary, Magdalene, the divine feminine, eating, playing, praying, and what door are you knocking on at this point in your journey? So, really easy 2-3-minute questions to answer, but turn to your neighbors and we'll come back in just a few minutes. All right, coming back. I love watching all the beautiful conversations. Thank you for engaging. Friends, our seeking isn't over. We have so many more questions to ask and answers to receive, so many more doors to knock on. Keep on asking curious questions. Keep on seeking the divine in all its forms, and keep on knocking on the door of what's next, and then walk through it when it opens. Listen to and for the invitation. Your heart is calling. Love is calling. Knock, knock.
Greetings to you wherever you are watching this. For those of you whom I have yet to meet in person, I'm Reverend Nicola Marsh, pastor here at Community UCC. And we see that people like you are watching our live stream each week. And because of this, we are excited to be embarking upon an experiment. And we need you. If you are engaging with us regularly, finding meaning in what we are about, we would like to extend a special invitation for you to be among the first CUCC digital disciples. For signing up for just $10 a month, you will receive a t-shirt with the new CUCC logo. And we are also exploring the idea of offering other content to those of you who are part of this new and growing area of digital ministry. Sign up to support us in this new way at cuccboulder.org/support by clicking on the yellow donate tab and noting you are a digital disciple in the instructions. Or as always, we welcome an old-fashioned check mailed to us at CUCC, P.O. Box 3646, Boulder, Colorado 80307. Thank you for being and building beloved community with us, and thank you for your gift, whatever it might be.